So you could just take a course and write about what you learned in that course. And it's at least as much worth than getting that certificate if you do some nice content about that course. Because it shows that you actually internalize that content versus a certificate doesn't necessarily mean that you internalize the content and you actually know what you're talking about. Welcome to my video. Now you might be thinking, who's that person who wants to give me any form of career advice? What does she know? Does she know something? Let's find out. So, as you might have assumed correctly, I'm not in any powerful human resource allocation decision department. I'm German, so my words tend to be really long. However, I got quite lucky, as people might perceive it from the outside, in my job search. So I figured out some of the ways that I tend to do differently to how I see other people do it in their job search, pack that up in some actionable item suggestions for people, and share it with you in this video. So here we go. So the first thing that I think is quite important is managing your expectations. Now this might come really harsh to some people, and it's my personal perspective, and I don't want to offend anybody with that. But a lot of times when people post about jobs online, it's not like in a way of what can I do for you? I want to help you as my potential future employer. It's more in a way of here, I'm here, look at me. Here, I give you the opportunity to promote me or to give me a job. And that kind of comes across cringy. So I can imagine as an employer, or me as a person looking at it, and I see, for example, a post on LinkedIn and that states something like, I finished my degree, I'm ready for the job market, here's my CV, please contact me if you have a job that fits my profile. I also give you the opportunity to share my CV with other employers. So you do several, if you post that, I'm not criticizing any objectives of posting that. However, some of the implications or some of the assumptions that people might have reading that text, right? Is, for instance, I would think, okay, so you want me to put an effort into talking to you about potential job opportunities? So I have to put an effort into getting you a job, and that shouldn't be on me. That shouldn't be on the reader. And the second thing is, okay, so you allow me to share your CV. You want me to share your CV? Why would I do that? Why would I not, if I know you, I would probably just connect you with people that I know that are looking for similar roles. But if I don't know you and you post it into the wild, you put, first of all, you kind of put a burden on people of like, okay, so you want me and my reputation to stand up for you to get a job? Why would I do that? Like, there's a gap of like, you're not answering why I should be doing that. What is it that's so special about you, and what is it that I owe you in a way to put that effort in? And it's something like really trivial, like it's nothing that is big or like that, where people might be shocked or where you would get a negative reputation or anything like that. It's just that it's probably not as effective as you could be. So let's look at some of the ways that you could be more effective about it. So what I did at my first job, first of all, to get my first job, it took me I had probably like 20 different interviews, and I knew I wasn't getting most of the jobs. But I would apply to those jobs anyway, just to get the experience of the interview, just to talk to people and be in an interview environment. So that was amazing. That was the first thing I did to get my first job. Then the second thing was I created those example material for future employers. So the jobs that I really wanted, I would create like proper example material that I would send them with my CV and be like, here, look what I did. I would love to do similar work in this position for you. Please, let's chat, right? Something like that. And with that, I'm already, employers are under no obligation to actually get back to you, right? Even if you put that work in. But it gives them an additional incentive. Why would they get back to you? What makes you special? Well, you put that extra free work into it, right? Of course they should get back to you. Otherwise, you probably don't want to work for them anyways. Yeah, that's the first thing you can do. But as mentioned, nobody owes you anything. That goes back to expectations. Employers, people around you don't owe you anything. If you have finished your degree, it doesn't mean that employees owe you to give you a job. It doesn't mean that your network on LinkedIn owes you to get you a job. That's not the case. So the third thing I did within my first job, after finishing workday, I would contact people. And I would be like, people whom I aspired to, whom I thought were amazing within the industry, whom I could learn a lot from. I would message them and ask them, hey, what can I do for you? I want to do anything. Like, is there anything I can help you with for free, right? I just want to get the experience. I just want to know what you know and how I can help you to advance my own skills. Like, just the opportunity to do something for you, maybe get like a few sentences of feedback. That's amazing, right? So just providing this free work, doesn't mean that they have to get back to me just because I offered it. It doesn't mean that they have to give me feedback. It doesn't mean that after I completed the free work that they actually have to give me a job or give me any opportunities. They are under no obligation towards me, and that's something you have to understand. Or like that kind of I had to understand at the beginning. I was like, why are they not getting back to me? And sometimes I bothered people quite often just for them to get back to me, right? Just for them to acknowledge me, acknowledge my existence. And in some cases it worked, and they were actually giving me those opportunities. And it took me quite some time to actively asking and engaging with them and asking for those opportunities. So that's the next thing you can do. But just to recap the first chunk. First of all, you want to manage expectations. If you manage expectations just your own and the people around you, it's a much easier interaction. The second one is that you want to give people a reason of why they should interact with you. Why should they get back to you? Why should they help you in any way? Now let's move on to the second part. You want to invest extra time. So especially if you're just getting started in the job market, people will think she or he doesn't know, can't deliver that quality of work that somebody else can deliver. Like, why should I hire somebody who's just getting started over somebody who might be happier with a lower salary, who's already in the job market, right? I have this philosophy basically that no matter how much time it will take me, at some point I will figure it out by myself. So I could take an hour trying to figure it out, asking for help, fixing it, getting it done. An hour, right? However, that hour is then also spent me interrupting somebody else within the job, interrupting my supervisor, interrupting anybody else and their work. So if they are in focus work, if they are working on something really important that has to be shipped, and I'm like here, oh, I need help with this, right? I have to be certain that it's not worth me fixing by myself, but asking that person instead and getting a quick answer. However, if I'm certain at some point I will figure it out, I would invest those extra 5 hours that they're not within my job, like time frame, let's say, within those 8-9 hours a day that you work, they are extra. So I have to be certain that I will figure it out. I have to be certain that my interruption of the other person will be worth it. Last thing. Make your work visible. And that's something that I try to do better from the beginning. And you see those really cringy blog posts where I basically took a free online course and I wrote about it, and it's hanging around on the internet and it doesn't look that great, but it's ultimately there because you tried to make your work visible. And it's a scary thing to do. But ultimately, for me, actually, it got me all of my previous jobs. Just showing what I was working on online got me those jobs. People would contact me or reach out to me just because they saw one of those blog posts that I wrote or something that I wrote about, some presentation I gave similarly, right? So People want to see what you're working on. And I know there's this TED Talk that I watched a while ago of this guy who said he doesn't use any social media. He's not on any social media. He's a software engineer and he's fine. Let me find it. I think he was a software engineer. Anyway, so he said basically, it's fine. I don't need it. I have a job. I have everything that I need. I don't need all that stuff around that distracts me from life. And that's amazing. However, that probably only works in some situations. And in most situations, you want to show what you're working on because that gives you additional opportunities and potentially makes it easier for you to get those opportunities, to get offered those opportunities. So make anything that you can visible. Put it all out there. So let's go over some of the things that you could be doing to make your work more visible. So we're here on my blog that I started not too long ago. You can also, if you're curious about who I am, here you can hit about, and that's my website, where you can read all the juicy stuff about me. But what I want to show you is actually, here's a newsletter. So if you're interested in DevOps, subscribe to my newsletter. It's DevOps related, so subscribe here. Click subscribe here, over here. Anyway, but what I want to show you is other section where I write about some random content such as career advice and also my learning and organization directory with some of the tools that you can use to make your work more visible. So for example, note-taking apps that are quite good to show people of what you're working on, because you can make it public. For example, Notion. Now, here's, for example, my Notion. I have here my university notes. I have some of my work-related notes, just general notes about my life. And I have the DevOps diary that I started when I got started in DevOps, where I post, my newsletters as like rough drafts, and then all kinds of notes of stuff that I'm reading on. Now, you can make specific pages in Notion public. So I can make this page public and share it with everybody and show them, look, here's something I'm writing about, which is just amazing because I don't have to share specific docs and I can make it all pretty in Notion and so on. Then online courses. The Open University, edX, Coursera, Pluralsight, Coursera not. But a lot of those platforms have free courses. You don't have to pay for those expensive certificates. You don't. Nobody's obliged. Nobody's making you pay for those courses. So you could just take a course and write about what you learned in that course. And it's at least as much worth than getting that certificate if you do some nice content about that course. Because it shows that you actually internalize that content versus a certificate doesn't necessarily mean that you internalize the content and you actually know what you're talking about. So take those online courses and just write about what you learned because it's really valuable. And it's also valuable for others who might want to check out the same course and just see what it's all about and see the content. So you're doing other people a favor with that as well. Anyway, next thing, design. You could design infographics. You could design any mind map, stuff like that. How content connects, your learning path. Visualize it. You know those huge mind maps where people just say how to become a front-end developer and put all the tech stack that they have to learn just to become a front-end developer? Well, they break it down in mind maps, and that's something you can do on those design platforms, for example. Now, there are a lot of free and also paid community organization stuff where you can just connect with people, all free, and then meetup platforms, connect with people there. There are events. You could attend events of a subject that you're interested in and write about that event. Blogging platforms, those are all mostly free. You could use them. You could create your own portfolio. My blog is based on Ghost. It's built on Ghost. So you could have a Ghost domain. You don't have to pay much for that. Setting up your website. Create a website. Show who you are, right? All those ways you can make your work more visible. If you like somebody in the industry who has a podcast, listen to their podcast, interact with their podcast. Maybe if they don't have a written summary of some important episodes of the podcast, write those up. Don't ask. Write them up for free and send it to them. They might give you a shout out. You could ask them like, hey, do you know somebody who has a job? The chances are far higher that they could recommend you to somebody just by that. So this is just my quick organization directory. I hope you enjoy it and I hope it might be helpful. Link below. Now, just summarizing some of the things that I mentioned in this video. You want to manage expectations. You want to give people a reason of why should they interact with you. You want to invest extra time and just show people that you can do the work, that you're qualified for it. Give them a reason to interact with you. And you want to make your work visible.